Welcome to Merryfield's Gardening Advisor, brought to you by the experts at Merryfield Garden Center. Join us as we discover beautiful plants, new trends, and exciting ideas for your landscape. So let's get growing together. Merryfield's Gardening Advisor, bringing out the best in your garden.
Good morning, everyone, and happy spring. We're on our first official Saturday of spring. Yay!
Last.
That's right. I'm your host, Debbie Warhurst-Kapp, and I've got two lovely ladies with me. Of course, you know Peg Beer, our wonderful gardening expert, and you've got a special guest here.
I absolutely do. It's wonderful to have all these special guests because we learn so much from each other. And we have today Sandy McDougall, who has a wonderful, wonderful place, Sandy's Plants, out from Richmond. And she came up and stayed overnight with me last night, and we were just talking
plants all night long.
We have a great deal in common. I've known Sandy for many years too, but we have a lot in common. Our backgrounds are very similar. I was raised a farmer's daughter, so was she, you know. So we've either been in agriculture or horticulture our entire lives. And we could sit and talk about these plants forever, you know. So that's what we want to do today. Everybody learns something different. None of us know everything. And as I frequently say, if you run into somebody that knows everything, go in the opposite direction. Because it just isn't possible, right? You know?
There's too much out there.
But I know for a fact that Sandy is very hands-on, and her experiences might be slightly different than mine, and we might debate that issue now and then. But I've been in her garden, and I know it's hands-on, and so she's going to share those experiences.
You're going to be talking about perennials today, spectacular perennials.
Yes, perennials that I haven't killed yet, because I've killed a lot in 30 years.
It's called experimentation, right?
Yes, yes, and there are some tough ones that keep surviving. Especially, Peggy had said we'd talk about things that work together, combinations. When you plant a single plant, frequently it just doesn't make an impact. But one of the first slides, are we going to show the slides
Hold on just a second.
No, we'll hold those.
Okay.
We'll keep because we really want them to find out also about the seminars, which Sandy is going to.
That's right.
She and I will be leaving here and running out to Fair Oaks in the car.
That's right. Not running literally.
And then she'll be doing a press, so it's important to let you know what's going on.
Okay, let's start with our Merryfield location, and Karen Rexroad is going to be talking about photography and flowers today. So that is a great seminar, very interesting seminar. Karen is just full of knowledge, so take advantage of that. That's at 10 a.m. at the Merryfield Community Hall, which is right next to our Merryfield location. And as Peggy mentioned, right after the show, these two are going to drive right out of here and go to our Fair Oaks location, where you're going to focus kind of on rare and underused perennials and combinations and just perennials in general, right?
Yes.
So take advantage of that, because not only will she give a wonderful program, but you can ask her questions, right?
Yes, love to be there for questions.
That would be great. And that's at 10 a.m. at the Fair Oaks location. At our Gainesville location today, David Yost is going to be there talking about spring lawn care. So if you missed the seminar last week or needed more information from the seminar last week, take advantage of this, because he will be there with a great program and again, you know, time to answer those questions. So that's great. Next week we've got three more, but it's a little bit different next week. We've got, normally each of our seminars are at 10. Well, we've got a little bit different next week, because we'll be doing fragrant gardens at 10 at Merryfield. We're going to be doing growing herbs at 10 at Fair Oaks, and then our guest, Nicole Schrimmerhorn, is going to be going to Gainesville and talking about growing herbs at 2 p.m. as well. So that's a little bit different, so we'll talk more about that next week, but just wanted to give you a heads up on that. Wanted to let you know too, our spring hours have begun at Merryfield Garden Center, our official hours that we keep for most of the year. So that's 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and then 9 to 6 on Sunday. So we hope you'll come by. You know, now that the time has changed. The weather's warmer and it's lighter longer, so that's going to work out well for you. So come on in and take a look. We've got just, I mean, I love this time of year because we've got all the new plants coming in, all the color. The annual section is just spectacular.
It's all cool season.
It is
all
all cool
say
season.
That, okay?
Right.
Now, that isn't to say if it gets deep down in the 20s, and I will show you as time goes by, a lightweight frost cloth that you can put over plants that you put outside because they've been cooled, often down to 35, but if it goes down to 25, you need to give them a little protection. The pansies are kind of different than that, but yeah, everything that's out now in the annual section is pretty much cool season. We don't have any geraniums yet. It's too soon, okay?
Yeah.
But we'll just kind of leave that there and touch on it as we go through the program, because I know that everybody is concerned about, and I put this outside now, with Tuesday's weather and the possible down into the 20s.
We're not talking about that S word.
Well, I know, that's no word. But you know, that's reality. That's life. It's March still, and even the first part of April. So all you need to do is be prepared.
Right.
Be prepared to cover them. And if you don't have the frost cloth, which is lightweight, and sun goes through it and the rain goes through it, but it takes care of a couple of degrees, throw a bed sheet over it, but not plastic. The plastic transfers the cold, and it does more harm than good.
Right.
But
and right beside Peggy, I don't know if you can see the Helleborus. I was just going to see if they could get a picture of it. We've talked about some of the neat things that are coming in, and we're going to talk about this more later. But
actually, this is true, and even in this segment, we're going to touch on Helleborus just a little bit. So we'll come back to that.
Okay.
But there we go.
Yes, isn't that spectacular?
It's fun. These just came in, and actually, when Sharon put Sharon or Caroline put this up on our Facebook page, my comment was that the blooms are spectacular. This is a new cultivar. The flowers are facing up, but the foliage is spectacular, which we'll show you later on. And I said, if you have never started with Helleborus, this is a great place to begin. And if you've already started with them, this is a good one to add to your collection. But having said that, let's bring up that first picture and get Miss Sandy involved, because she's the one we want to hear.
Thank you, Peggy. This is a combination involving Helleborus, the dark green leaves to your upper screen, and a wonderful, wonderful ground cover, a steppable, called Acorus minimus. It's called minimus because it's very short, 12 months a year. It is only 3 inches tall and always green or bright chartreuse. When I look out of my door,
there we go. Debbie's usually one good at this, okay?
When I look out of my door, I see this chartreuse carpet of sunshine, and it really cheers me up, because then I have these wonderful foliage from the Helleborus. And that was the dark green at the upper part of that screen.
But if we think in terms of plant combinations, where you have that contrast with this, but you know something else? There was something very, very special about that picture also, and that was her little water feature that the birds love. But did you notice the reflections in the water?
Very true, Peggy.
Distilled water.
And the birds do love that. That little planting is right at my kitchen window. So I've got the contrast in the large green foliage and the blooms in February, January, and December, and March. It's a 4-month bloom plant.
Right. Ladies, let's take a quick break. We've got a lot to talk about, and we're going to come back with so many more perennials. Stay tuned. Harbinger of spring. Here we go. Welcome back, everybody.
Here.
Peg and I are joined today by Sandy McDougall, and we're so glad you're here. And she's talking about some spectacular perennials and combinations of perennials. So you were talking about Acorus when we left, right?
Yes. Acorus is a whole family of sizes and widths and cultural conditions. If we get the next slide up, we'll show one that's taller. The grassy foliage in the lower portion of that picture is yet another Acorus wogon. It's still chartreuse, but it grows 12 to 18 inches tall, where the Acorus minima stays 4 inches. Acorus as a family, as a group, will tolerate a lot of water. They're great to use in your rain garden, or to use where your irrigation leaks frequently, or your air conditioner leaks, any wet spot. But they'll also be quite happy in an unirrigated dry location. If you put an Acorus in a dry location, it's better that it have some shade. If it's going to get all of the moisture it wants, then it tolerates sun. If not, it's a shade plant. If we can go back to that slide.
Yeah, let's go back to the other one, because there's a couple of other plants that are in that combination of the one that we just had up. There we go.
Yes.
There's a couple there that are just,
That is a shade combination. And that tall plant is 5 feet tall, and it's polygonatum. And it's so tall that the little white blooms, you actually can walk under it and look up into the flowers. I enjoy that combination.
But that's a unique variety too.
Yes, it is.
A lot of the ones that I have in my garden and have had for many years, which this is the center plant, which the wonderful thing is it gives you the diversity of the low ground cover that really complements the taller one growing out of it. Mine's the variegated form, and it isn't that tall, but love it. Ooh, I do. And I suppose you can kill those when she's talking about plants I haven't killed yet. I haven't killed those yet either.
No, the deer don't eat them, and the voles have not eaten them. I have a real vole problem at my house, and they don't seem to eat the polygonatums.
Right. Well, they're fantastic.
Which is nice.
So, by all means, that is a striking combination, particularly for the shade.
Yes, it is.
And you do have actually a hosta sitting next to that.
I like to sit hostas around. Hostas are showy. I like to just put them in their pot in different ground covers to hide them in the ground cover. And that's sort of what was happening in that slide.
So what are we seeing in this slide?
In this slide, we're seeing another Acorus, again a little taller, but in the forefront is the old-fashioned creeping phlox, which you're going to see blooming everywhere soon. One of the first spring bloomers. It's very, very evergreen. I particularly like 2 varieties of creeping phlox, emerald pink and emerald blue. This is emerald blue. I like the way the foliage looks this in the season when it's not blooming. I think it's a nice contrast.
It is a nice dense foliage, and properly grown, there isn't a lot of weeds that come through. Yes, it can, okay, and then you have to very carefully weed them out, but
very few. It gets dense.
It does, and the foliage is beautiful. I love it.
Yes.
But always remember, when we are talking about phlox, there are so many different kinds of phlox.
Oh, yes.
This is the one we call that creeping phlox that comes into bloom early in the spring.
Yes.
But there's woodland phlox, there's the tall summer phlox, and so phlox gives us a lot, but they're very different.
A lot of color and many different bloom seasons.
And in the next picture, I'm fascinated by your combination there. So you still have that Acorus, which is really tying your garden together.
You see the tiny ground cover Acorus, the minimatissima at the bottom, and then there's a 3-foot Acorus. That one loves water, would love to live in your fish pond. It is white with a little green variegation. Does not have to have water, but in that location, it's getting a lot of water. And then in the front right corner are the rain lilies. I love using rain lilies because they bloom for 3 months, probably July, August, September, when I don't have a lot of other plants blooming. And that particular one is bright white, which reflects the green in the taller.
I really do enjoy that. And she's got some really exciting pictures coming on here that I think that we're going to be able to go over into the garden.
Virtual garden?
Can we do that?
Yes, we will.
And hold
We've got this one up here. Do we want to talk about this one first?
Yeah, we can talk about this one first, okay?
Okay.
I threw this picture in. All of these pictures belong to Sandy except this one. And I threw it in because it is a picture of one of the miniature gardens that we have out at the Fair Oaks location. And it's an elevated garden, which is a wonderful thing because if you could no longer get down on your knees or can't get down on your knees, think in terms of elevating your garden and gardening in containers. It's fantastic. But most of these plants are referred to as steppables or whatever. And Sandy does that so well. So if we come back to here, show them your little sign. I just love it.
The steppable sign is a foot. And on the back, it indicates how much foot traffic the plant can take. So if you turn the sign on the back, you'll notice whether the footprint is dark or light. And that lets you know how much traffic it could actually take. We have several others that we want to show you that will tolerate a lot of foot traffic.
Before we go on our break, did you want to show about how to divide that?
We were going to divide
this.
Oh,
and
yes.
You didn't show the hellebores blooms.
we
Peggy
did.
Oh, we got plenty of time. We'll get to everything. But let's do the dividing before you all go to our virtual garden.
People ask me how far apart, how many do I have to buy? And I sort of joke, it depends on how much money you have or how much time. If you've got a lot of money, buy a lot and cover the whole ground. If you're always on a budget like I am, I thoroughly enjoy dividing plants. I look for the fattest ones, and not every plant can be divided, but the Socorus is great for making divisions. I can wiggle it just like the dentist wiggles a tooth. It is making a mess on the cloth, but Peggy planned ahead. So I have a larger clump over here, but look how many times I can pull that, and a wonderful root system. Don't make the mistake I frequently make, and that is I plant these about this far apart, and by late summer they'll cover, but I plant them today and say I'm going to mulch them tomorrow, and then I don't. If you plant a smaller version, go on and put your mulch in so you don't get weeds growing in the vacant space. They will try. So you could divide this plant into as many pieces as your budget dictates. Either use it as it is or just keep wiggling it, and it will cover quickly. So easily 6 out of that one.
And don't be afraid to just pull those apart.
Just wiggle it. Peggy brought wonderful. You can stab it and
pull a little bit, but then you want to work with your hands. And of course, she and I, we were looking at our hands last night. You know, fortunately we travel in the right circles. You know,
you could buy gloves.
Gloves we do recommend.
Yes. Okay, we're going to take another break. When we come back, you ladies are going to go to our virtual garden.
Yes, we are. We're going out into the garden.
All right, we'll be right back.
Oh, and I did see coming in on that little bunny. Sandy and I were walking through my garden last night, and guess what? There was a little bunny in front. Normally I don't have little bunnies, but we had a little bunny last night, you know. So, welcome back to Merrifield Garden Center, the gardening advisor. And we have Sandy McDougall with us, who is from Sandy's Plants down in Richmond. And I've known Sandy for a long, long time, and she has some beautiful plants to talk about. So, behind us is one that I also grow of a different variety. Tell us about this plant, Sandy.
This is an Anne Arundel Donax peppermint stripe, and it's very important that you look for the name peppermint stick. It stays variegated, deeply white, right until it freezes to the ground. It is a striking plant. It will get to be 18 feet tall, so you need it as a specimen, or maybe you're not liking looking at something your neighbors are doing. It works well to hide neighbors. The incandescents on this plant are 18 inches tall and beautiful. If you don't need such a tall plant, but you love the large leaves and the bright white color, you can go in and just shear it off right about there, and then it stays low and bushy and really
it's
nice.
Wonderful. And I think you've another cultivar of this in the next picture.
Yes.
Let's bring that one. Oh, I love this too. This is
This one is much shorter. This one is 6 feet tall, and it fits the smaller gardens. Breeders are constantly realizing that not everybody needs a big pack of a plant, and they have smaller gardens. And in the back over here is Eupatorium Joe Pye weed, the pink. Joe Pye weed is a wonderful fall blooming butterfly attractor, and Little Joe is much shorter than the one you see the native growing beside the road, but Little Joe is a native as well.
And let's bring on another plant combination, and I really love this one because because I love that plant too, okay?
Yes.
It's got some very exciting things in it. Tell us about this beautiful golden foliage rhubarb over here, tiger eyes.
Tiger eyes. She
here
said
and
it all. Beautiful, bright, shocking yellow gold foliage, contrasting against the Canna australis, the shiny dark leaves with the red flowers, contrasting against something I love, cacti. The cacti just seem to bounce the light. It reflects the light. You've got so many textures in this combination. And another plant that's done well is the Coreopsis. You're on your side, Peggy, yes. The Coreopsis, Route 66. So many new Coreopsis have been introduced, reds and yellows, but I've been disappointed in a lot of them. Some of them get too tall, some don't come back. Route 66 has been coming back for many, many years. And then in the foreground, right there, is Japanese bloodgrass. So we're picking up the reds, the yellows, and the contrasting colors, and the different way the light reflects, I think, makes that a nice combination. In an area, say, 15 by 15, or it could be spread bigger. Depends on the size
I think
of the
this
garden.
is fantastic because you do have the color pickup with the canna and the lighter, softer one here. And then you've got the contrast of color, but you've got repetition of that. You've got it here and you've got it here.
Yes.
And that's fine. But I think it's wonderful that we're all created so differently.
Yes.
You know?
We like different things.
And she
that's good.
absolutely loves this Opunta.
Yes, Opunta cacti. They're wonderful
And
plants.
I don't want it in my garden.
This one is thornless, Peggy. Don't be a sissy. And also, we have nice thorned ones, and Romero at Merrifield loves them. And they're great for containers.
This
and
is thornless?
This one is.
Well, we'll let that one come in.
Romero likes them all. and Romero and I tell people if they've been asking their neighbors to not cross through their garden, plant a cacti garden right there, and they'll get the hint.
It'll be more than a hint, you know. And if it's thornless,
yes,
I'm going to have to talk to you more about that, because the blooms on this in the summertime are spectacular.
Yes.
See, we learn something every day. I didn't know you had a thornless
the blooms can be double, they can be yellow, they can be red or coral, and they can be single, but they are striking. And the pears in the fall are red, and there are a number of people who make jellies and preserves from them.
See, it doesn't pay to be so opinionated, does it?
Yes, cacti. I will bring you a present.
We'll be back in a moment, and we'll share a lot of the other experiences with this lovely lady. Welcome back to Merrifield Garden Center's Gardening Advisor, and to Sandy McDougall, because it's such a joy to have her to exchange the thoughts and the ideas. I just learned something myself in the last segment, that Apunda cactus doesn't have any thorns. That's fantastic. And now we're sharing some other thoughts and ideas, but as we go along, you mentioned at break time, we didn't tell them what the sun or the shade requirements are. So in the last picture, they're growing in a lot of sunshine at your place, aren't they?
In my place, full sun, 0 water, and you're saying 5 to 6 hours of any sun would have supported that combination.
It has for me, yes, but yours gets full sun.
Absolutely.
It takes that hot sun.
All day.
Which is
no water.
Fantastic. So they're the ones that if you are being conscious of the watering, and sometimes we can get some droughts around here. I've had them in my garden for the last several years, you know. I'm glad we've got some moisture in the ground right now, which will carry things for a while, you know, but it doesn't always carry through July and August. I'm fascinated with the plant that is behind us. All this beautiful variegate. And I find this plant spectacular.
To me, Caryopteris snow fairy brightens up my well-lit shade garden. That plant is sited where it never gets a drop of full sun, but it gets wonderful light. And in the shade, the things that show up from a distance are white or maybe yellows, but blues and other colors melt into the greens a lot of times. So this combination shows up from a distance. The Caryopteris snow fairy has beautiful blue flowers, and then that shocking foliage. Underneath it is a plant that you either love or hate, but I happen to think it's useful. Lizomachia, Creeping Jenny.
Creeping Jenny, yes.
A lot of people
can be
don't
invasive, but I love it too. You just have to get out there and pull it.
But I don't have to pull weeds there.
No.
It chokes out the weeds, and the plants that I've planted in that area are tall enough so that they're not damaged. The Virginia, the shiny leaf plant in the picture over here.
Yeah. This big one.
Yeah, over here.
Over here.
It reflects light, it likes some shade, and the Lizomachia is not going to choke it out.
So that's a wonderful combination. Now we want to roll through several of these pictures because she's got some great things to show. So here's another wonderful. Now this is again going back to some shade or full sun.
Yes.
So it'll do both.
Exactly.
Right?
This is back to the Acorus. Okay, we've moved from that one.
But this is a chorus with that same plant underneath another, right? Yeah.
This is the Acorus, the tall one. Underneath it is the Euphorbia. Euronymous Kiwinsias. Too many E's in the plant world. The Euronymous Kiwinsias never gets any taller than this, and it creeps quickly, easy to get rid of, would prefer some shade. In this setting, it's full sun, no water. In the next picture,
and if we bring up the next one, then she's going to show you how we so often utilize these plants beneath our shrubs that are deciduous, those that lose their leaves in the wintertime. I think this is fantastic.
I love the skeleton of hibiscus.
Right.
I've got some hibiscus skeletons that are 5 feet tall, and I haven't cut them down yet. I'm enjoying them in the winter so much. But I do like to have something growing under them, and the Euronymous Kiwinsias is a perfect companion because it likes the shade from the hibiscus. Hibiscus have from 6 to 8 inch flowers all summer. Lots of different colors, lots of different heights. Can take water or not. Mine get no water.
And let's move on to the next slide and see what she's got in store for you. Oh, a favorite of mine.
Yes, the little mondo grass. And then when we flip to the next slide, I'll show you how I love to use it. When I am planting trees or shrubs that I know are going to have a very heavy canopy in the summer, that no light will be able to get under them, I love to have something to look at in the winter. So I have found that the Othophoga nana is one of the very best plants for being under the dense shade and dry shade most of the time, and yet when the trees lose their foliage, it's there shining brightly. I like to do it when I plant the plant because I have killed large plants by digging to get the ground covers tucked in.
Yeah, you do have to be really careful under existing. You cannot just go out there and turn that soil that much. But a wonderful ground cover comes in so many different heights. Yes. Little bitty guy, medium-sized guy, big guy. Great.
And comes in black, if you like totally black.
Yes.
It's stunning.
It's great. And in the next picture, she's got some more fun things to share. These are all in
another shade plant, a sun plant that I think is prettier in the shade. This Miscanthus Morning Light, supposed to be 4 foot. This picture's making it look like it's 5 foot, but it's really a 4 foot grass. This particular sighting gets 0 sun, but beautiful light. Where I see it in plantings that are in intense full sun, I don't think it has the pretty white color. And here again, that draws my eye into the shady, darker parts of my garden.
This is how you get light oftentimes in those shady areas.
Light and grass brings movement too, and I love movement in the wind.
This is great, and we've had some issues with impatiens for a while, and this is what we have to concentrate. Yes, we have some substitutes that give color, but this is color.
Yes, it is.
This is color, and this is what made. And let's roll through a couple more of these in this segment, please. This is at Sandy's house in the back, and I took pictures of this when I was there last fall. This is fantastic.
It was a straight brown lava rock, just the regular lava rock, and I have a whole collection of ferns planted downhill of that, and in 2 years. That rock had totally self-seeded with all kinds of ferns, and I'm strongly guessing that I've got crosses that maybe aren't even in the industry.
Well, this is how things come about and all these exciting, but look at the mosses. And they're natural mosses, and then there are also the ones that you have in your steppables, which are the Irish moss and the Scotch moss, and can be purchased. But this is absolutely delightful. Now, we spoke also about the beautiful water feature that she had for the birds and the reflection that was in it. And how do you use fun things so that when you walk through the garden, you're not only enjoying the plants.
Frog.
Oh, you are. This is true. Okay, good. Thank you for stepping back. Look at this. There's a lazy frog, but here's the second one over here. They are not screaming at you. You discover them when you go through. And so we have a lot in common, Sandy, is to enjoy all of these fun things, but not have them in your face, you know? So this is plant combinations and interest combinations, and we'll have more for you in a moment. We'll be back.
Little rooster there in the house, outside the house.
Well, we've become very talkative in the last few hours.
That's right. We're having too much fun here.
Gardening makes that happen.
Well, it does. Gardening is such a healthy thing. I really believe that it keeps you on your feet mentally and physically too. I'm a believer. And enjoying the experiences that Sandy has had in her garden and otherwise. But I was talking as we were coming in about favorite plants, and of course I have the tendency to say the one I'm standing in front of, you know. But if we bring up the next picture, this is absolutely an underused perennial, in my opinion.
Yes. That is Rebeckia. You think of Rebeckia as black-eyed Susans, and it is. It has a large black eye, actually, larger than most black-eyed Susans, and it stands 5.5 feet tall. It's taller than I am. Bright, bright yellow flowers for a month, and then if I get ambitious and go in right across the top of that beautiful gray, blue-gray foliage and cut the spent flower heads, it will totally rebloom. And as you can see the buds on that second layer and know where to cut. Your instinct will tell you what to cut. But what you will be sacrificing is the cones and the goldfinch coming and sitting on those cones and swaying in the wind as they eat those seeds.
And that is absolutely beautiful. I absolutely love that. Unfortunately, where I have the sunshine is not where I can see it often. So I have to walk down there to quietly sit while they come and go, you know. But just love that plant.
Yeah, I use it as a very tall divider, see-through kind of plant.
And in mass, or you can use it singly in the middle of the garden.
Yes.
Yes, you can. And then she's got some other fun things in the next slide if we bring that up. This one I enjoy, this combination. Yeah.
Containers are always fun. You can move them around and change them so easily. But this sedum is one of my most versatile and favorite sedums. I love plants that I don't have to know today whether it's always going to be sunny or shady, because shade changes, trees grow. In this container, we're using Sedum tectotinum, that green spilling down plant, in the shade with the heuchera. But in the next slide, which should come up, yes, that is in part shade, part sun. The green line is where the shade is, and then that's growing out into the rocks of the driveway is in full sun, just by virtue of shadows that are created. So if it's in shade, it remains green 12 months a year. If it's in sun, I get a coral color, copper color foliage that's really exciting. White flowers, very evergreen, needs no water. Even though I've got a Ligularia planted, that very large leaf green plant there is a Ligularia. It still works.
Right, and that Ligularia needs more water.
Ligularias
back in the shade.
Typically they need more water, but that sedum is a little water tolerant. So
that works. And the next couple of pictures, again, is one of my favorites, and rapidly becoming a top of the line thing, particularly in shade.
Yes, shade plants, a lot of people need color in the shade. They can get it in full sun, but when you get in the shade, it's a little harder to get color. This is a very early spring bloomer. It's called Dicentra, or bleeding heart. It's called gold heart. And you can see this from 50 feet away. The pink flowers, the chartreuse flowers. In the next slide is a new cultivar, and it's called Valentine, a Dicentra Valentine. Its hearts are extremely red, and it's not quite as tall as the old-fashioned bleeding heart, but gives you that wonderful spring shade color, and then fades away so that your hostas and your other shade plants can fill in the space until next spring.
And if they don't totally fill all the space, then let's try to cover the next two slides, particularly because fern, I have primarily shade, and fern is a very important part of my garden. And there's so many different varieties that give you different effects.
This is Autumn Brilliance, and if you could see the new foliage, it is that bronze rust color, all the new foliage. That fern gets to be almost waist high, I would say 30 to 36 inches tall, has been there forever, remains upright during snow and windstorms, and I have one in a huge container for 3 years, and the poor thing has never gotten any extra water, but it makes a wonderful container plant. The next slide shows a fern that I like for a different reason, and that's Japanese sword fern, which is stately, but the advantage to that one is it's a real ground cover that runs. Other ferns, typically your Christmas fern or your other ferns, have to be placed in a way that they will cover the ground. You have to know how wide they're going to be. But the Japanese sword fern covers the space. It's a ground cover.
That's great. Beautiful, beautiful ferns you need to really consider. And they combine with just about anything.
And no deer. Deer do not like ferns.
No, they don't, which is a big plus.
We're going to have to take another break, ladies, and we will be right back with some more beautiful plants. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Peggy had mentioned frost cloth a couple of times here, and so why don't you show that
to explain it, because we've both used this a great deal, and I want to be quick because she's got a couple of other things to share. Harvest Guard, this one's called. I use it extensively in this season or in the fall, okay? And even if you come in, and which is a fun time, we've got gorgeous vegetables and whatever, except tomatoes, too soon for those, okay? But the cool season things, the cool season other plants that we have, if, as I said, we get into those 20s, get some of this frost cloth, and you can, it's so thin, as you were saying.
Yes.
It's very thin.
And you can shake it out and fold it up and put it away for fall after you're finished with it. But it's just enough to keep the frost off the plant and the moisture doesn't, or the cold doesn't transfer to those tender
And quickly
leaves.
too, one easy application, unless it's around a container that maybe you need to tie off, are sod pins. And we sell these sod pins, but they're like a huge hairpin. And you just put it in the ground and then pick it up. So that's all we need to say about
hold
that.
it down with an adjacent rock or a plant
Or whatever,
or anything.
yes, you can.
Yeah, the wind does usually blow when it gets cold.
So we've got just a couple more pictures you want to
Yes,
show, right?
I really need to do that. Some of her favorites right now.
This is a Texas native, Callalopus prairie lode. The planting that you're seeing there is probably 10 foot and about 2 foot wide, and that is 6 plants. This plant blooms from the end of April until the freeze kills it. It's hardy to zone 4, which means very, very, very cold. No bugs, constant blooms. And then if you can show the next slide, because it is so cold hardy, it is wonderful in above ground containers that just weeps over that container. If you squint, you can see some flowers that are finished, but they don't jump out at you, so I don't feel a need to go out and groom the plant like I do some plants.
Right.
It will never self-sow, and it never runs underground. So it is in no way invasive, and it's about 12, maybe 15 inches tall. The only way you could kill it is with too much water.
Now, this one we don't have in stock yet, right? But it will be coming from you.
Yes.
We've got to give some of these things a couple more weeks before they're going to be really ready, you know? Because most of you don't want to come in and buy a pot of soil and not know what's in it. Before we go any further, there's something that I really, really, really need to share. And that is that at all 3 locations, we just got in this brand new cultivar of hellebores. What was it that you said? You never met a...
I've never met a hellebores that I didn't love. I was thinking the other day, oh, I wish I didn't have any old ones. I could have all the new doubles, all the new cultivars. And then I thought, I love the old ones. I love every hellebores. Some people complain that they self-seed. I think those people have no friends to give presents, because hellebore seedlings are a wonderful present. This particular cultivar is mostly sterile. You're not going to get many seedlings from this.
And I didn't know that.
They're done tissue culture.
Okay.
Because they are so slow to seed. And the doubles hardly ever self-sow. You don't share with friends on the doubles.
Well, I love my old ones, the golden oldies.
Too.
But the attribute of this is not only the numerous flowers that face out, but also the great foliage. So they're there, and yes, you can plant these things now. These hellebores are tough.
And look what Peggy cut this morning at 5 o'clock.
Yes.
At the edge of her garden.
She said, oh, you've got so many beautiful flowers. I don't know if you can come in on this.
She's floating them in that dish of water.
But I said, Sandy, it's dark outside, and it's going to be dark when we leave in the morning. And she said, but you don't see the diversity. It's hellebores. They float beautifully. They last a long time. Woo, I can't say enough about hellebores.
Wonderful kitchen table, dining room table decoration.
It's great.
Thank you so much for being here.
It's
Now,
been
you
fun.
can see her at 10 a.m. at our Fair Oaks location. They're going to leave here immediately as soon as the show's over and get over there. Thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, be sure to go by the seminars today. And next week, we have another guest, Nicole Shimmerhorn of A Time to Plant Herb Farm will be here, too. So we're talking perennials and then herbs. Lots going on in the garden.
Absolutely, but yes, please come. We'll be there and share all this chit-chat with you.
That's right. Have fun with these ladies. Have a great week. Bye-bye.